This series is going to be about voice acting. Purring, growling, chuffing, hissing, and speaking in growl like I just did. But before we pounce into that, I need to go on a really long rambling disclaimer. Here we go. This is a particular hobby of mine that quote-unquote makes me a furry. What do I mean? I like to purr when I am being pampered. Head scratches, massages, whatever. Why? Because America is this cesspool of swirling sexual tension, shame, and guilt. Anything and everything has to be sexually tied. And if it doesn't match that, then we try to shame it away, like breastfeeding. Don't even get me started on that stupidity. A friend cannot show physical affection to another friend without getting microaggression about that they should be dating. And it gets worse if either of them is in a relationship, even worse if they're both in a relationship because, oh, that's cheating. But it's not. We are primates, and every single genus uses pampering and grooming as a de-stressor and a bonding experience within the group. Watch Jane Goodall, she says it all the time. But what do? We circle jerk each other to in all of these hypocrisies, like men are supposed to be studs, but women are to be virgins. Oh, you pay for massages? Well, why don't you just have friends who are doing it for you? But wait, aren't you supposed to be dating? So, I am a furry in the sense that I want to be pampered. I want physical affection to not be sexualized every single second of my life. You know the meme about an introvert being the person at a stranger's party who beelines for the dog or cat? It's because the exposure to strangers makes them need to de-stress, and us as primates do that with grooming. So we pet the dog! Don't make fun of us for how we cope with our stress, our urge to connect to people with touch instead of meaningless driveling talk. But we can't do that without the majority of people assuming it's sexual, even though we specifically say that it is not meant to be sexual. Why is it okay to assume people lie? That's the same logic as rapists who ignore a person's rejections. It is not okay. Therefore, I make a point to tell my new friends that I enjoy head scratches and massages, and if you hang out with me long enough, I will ask if I can pamper you. It is how I show affection. Now, right, back to why I purr. Because what raises the American hackles of shaming is moaning, and it is not hard to know why, but do bear with me as I go on a little bit of a tangent. Lemons. Lemons. Upon hearing and seeing me interact with lemons, you might have had the urge to swallow because your salivary glands are stinging, or your neck might have tightened and you had an urge to cringe. If this sounds familiar, you might be thinking of the Pavlov dog experiment. Superficial summary, a dog salivates when it eats. This dog was only fed after a bell rang, therefore when a bell rang, it salivated. It's a lot more complicated than that, yes I know, and there's a lot of indiscrepancies in the experiment, blah blah blah. But this is how I'm about to explain what ASMR is. Segue. ASMR is not a commonly known community, but it also shares the sexual shaming that the furry community often gets, which is so annoying. ASMR is autonomous sensory meridian response. It's when a sensory stimuli, mainly audio or visual, results in an involuntary physical response. ASMR community often report of head tingling, hypersensitive skin, or sleepiness. But there are so many different responses that people often just write it off as, oh, it's just something sexual, which is not true. Because if you responded to the citric circus I just performed earlier, congratulations, you ASMR'd, and it was not sexual, and you are not obligated to sleep with the lemons. They understand. I personally use ASMR to fulfill pampering withdrawals. There are lovely people on YouTube who roleplay vast amounts of mundane tasks like doctor appointments, haircuts, getting your hair brushed, or a makeup being brushed across your face. Yes, I can brush my own hair, but it's not the same as someone else doing it, just like when you're getting tickled. Your brain knows that it's about to happen, and so it dulls the sensation so you can get along with the mundane task. But by listening to hair brushing, I can close my eyes and I get that unpredictability, and I enjoy the tactile memory of having my hair brushed. It's a virtual reality pampering session, which is not unheard of. That's not new.
But can't ASMR be sexual?
Oh my gosh, you are so smart. Maybe we should have whole websites focused solely on scripted sex. And we could call it NORP. No, porn. You are a genius. Yes, you see sex, you hear the slurpy gurshy worky booty doos, you hear moaning, and you get aroused. The warm and tinglies. But down there, instead of in your hair or the back of your neck. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I purr. Because if I were to moan like a human, bystanders might get uncomfortable due to involuntary arousal. I purr because when people pet a cat, the cat purrs in appreciation and the human continues to pet, and bystanders think it's silly or endearing. Have you ever received a head scratch or a back scratch that you didn't ask for, but by golly, you're enjoying it, and you don't want them to stop, but you don't want to moan because you don't want them to get the wrong idea, but you don't want to continue a very awkward silence of enjoyment? You gotta give them something, and words are okay, but if it's a really good head scratch or back massage, words don't quite come out of the mouth very well, and you just, okay, oh, but you can't, nope, don't do it, don't moan, you wanna make things awkward, you're gonna make babies, cause that's how it happens. Punkity punkity. Now, so I purr to express appreciation. It is not sexual.
But can't it be sexual?
Yeah, duh. Murphy's Law 34, if it exists, there is porn of it that exists, which is a hilariously terrifying thing to explore while in company. But I highly recommend it. Not with family. Never with family. And alcohol is a very questionable thing to do. Like, listen. Do not play the drinking game with this. Do not make a rule where you drink every time something you made up actually exists in porn. You will die from alcohol poisoning.
But don't furries have sex?
Yes! So do accountants! But I don't assume all of them are having weird number crunching sex. I don't assume sex with them is taxing. I don't assume teachers are empirical rulers during sex. I don't assume skiers say snow to sex. I don't assume chefs are the only ones who know how to spice up their sex life. I don't expect all yogis to refuse to leave after sex by saying namaste. I don't assume all plumbers want to fix your pipes during sex. I don't assume tech support just wants to turn you on and off again during sex. I don't assume all dragonborns want to take a knee during sex. I don't assume all pizza guys have a special delivery for me. Our occupation and our hobbies do not define our sex lives. Everyone has a fetish, and fetishes crop up because of first impressions while hitting puberty. I knew a guy who always was aroused by the smell of coconut, and that is because he used coconut oil as his first lube. But I don't assume he wants to put the lime in the coconut, nor should I have to drink it all up. He may light a coconut candle to remind himself of times that were simpler, when all he cared most were masturbation and Pikachu. The ASMR community has a similar practice, it's just not sexual. For instance, one may like to hear herbs being crushed in a mortar and pestle because it reminds them of a grandmother that died when they were 6 years old. They start to have memories of her come back. They smell her perfume, they remember her old tune she used to hum, and that's comforting and relaxing. ASMR is a tool, a form of mental health therapy that stimulates physical responses for a form of release. Yes, porn falls under this therapy, but it is one category, and people really need to stop using porn chronically to de-stress. There are so many other categories you can use. There is a time and a place. There is open communication and consent. If an ASMR video says, in parentheses, sexual, then it was meant to be sexual. If not, then guess what? It was not meant to be sexual. It's serving a different purpose, usually to calm or de-stress. This series of teaching tutorials is not intended to be sexual. You may find it arousing and be uncomfortable with that. But that is your involuntary response, and you have the voluntary choice to click the button that stops my video from playing. Problem solved. But do not shame me for your response, because not everyone experienced it the same way as you did. You may be watching my videos because it arouses you and you want to masturbate to it, and that is your personal response and choice. But do not try to get me to participate. Do not ask me for more videos of a sexual nature. You are not entitled, and I am not obligated to serve you. Just like a woman who walks down wearing clothes that you find arousing, she is not obligated to have sex with you. Do not rape her and do not verbally abuse me. Do we understand? Now, you may be here because you want to learn how to sound like a cat. Congratulations, you have come to the right place. Let's start on purring. Subscribe! I don't assume all bakers are needy when they have sex. I don't assume hunters are sexual predators. I don't assume all crab fishermen are clawing for sex. I don't assume EMTs break out the paddles when having sex. I don't assume all philatelists are tramp collectors. I don't assume all chemists have sex periodically. I don't assume cashiers are charging into sex. I don't assume social workers kid around during sex. I don't assume all nerfers can take a K-26. There might be someone on the porch. It might be FedEx. That was FedEx. He has a package for me. I'll bend and snap.